Globalization has become a defining characteristic of the modern world, shaping societies, economies, and cultures. Good day everyone, I am Zain. Today we are going to explore the complexities of globalization, including its varying perspectives, historical stages, influential players, and multifaceted impacts. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to differentiate the competing conceptions of globalization and analyze its effects on developing countries, particularly the Philippines. Without much ado, let us start our discussion with the different perspectives on globalization. Understanding globalization requires exploring different viewpoints on its nature and implications. The hyperglobalist, skeptical, and transformationalist perspectives offer unique insights into how globalization impacts the world. 1. Hyperglobalists. Hyperglobalists believe that globalization is a positive and transformative force that brings significant benefits across the world. They focus onto the economic benefits. However, they also argue that globalization reduces poverty and facilitates the sharing of culture, technology, and ideas. Hyperglobalists emphasize how interconnectedness can solve global challenges like climate change, pandemics, and poverty. For example, the global distribution of COVID-19 vaccines exemplifies the hyperglobalist perspective. International collaborations such as the COVAX initiative, spearheaded by the WHO, GAVI, and CEPI, aim to ensure equitable vaccine access worldwide. Advanced technology and a globally connected supply chain facilitated rapid vaccine production and distribution, showcasing how globalization can address global health crises effectively. 2. Skeptics. Skeptics view globalization as a force that perpetuates inequality and primarily benefits wealthy nations. They argue that globalization widens the economic gap between developed and developing countries, leading to exploitation and cultural homogenization. Skeptics often criticize globalization as a form of westernization or Americanization, where Western values and practices dominate local traditions. The dominance of American fast food chains like McDonald's and Starbucks in developing countries illustrates the criticism of globalization among skeptics. These brands often displace local food businesses, contributing to the erosion of culinary traditions and promoting unhealthy diets. In the Philippines, for instance, traditional eateries struggle to compete with these global franchises. Transformationalists. Transformationalists take a balanced view, acknowledging both the positive and negative aspects of globalization. They argue that its effects are complex and unpredictable, varying across different regions and sectors. Transformationalists focus on the dynamic interplay between global forces and local adaptations. The emergence of global localization illustrates the transformationalist perspective. For instance, global brands like McDonald's customize their menus to suit local tastes, offering McSpaghetti in the Philippines or Maharaja Mac in India, highlighting how global trends adapt to local contexts. The three perspectives, hyperglobalist, skeptic, and transformationalist, offer valuable insights into the multifaceted nature of globalization. By examining contemporary examples, we can better appreciate its varied impacts and complexities. Having explored the varying perspectives on globalization, it is essential to understand how globalization has evolved over time. This brings us to the stages of globalization, which trace its historical development and the key economic principles shaping each period. Globalization has evolved through distinct stages, each characterized by unique features and economic principles that shaped global interactions. The first stage, proto-globalization pre-1500s, was marked by the emergence of intercontinental trade routes like the Silk Road and the Trans-Saharan trade. These networks facilitated the exchange of goods, cultures, and ideas across Asia, Africa, and Europe, with barter serving as the primary economic system. This stage laid the groundwork for cultural diffusion and early economic integration among ancient civilizations. The second stage, early modern globalization 1500s to 1800s, witnessed the rise of European exploration and colonial expansion. Colonies and trading posts established by powers such as Portugal and Spain facilitated the exchange of goods like silk, spices, and silver through systems like the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. During this period, mercantilism dominated as the economic principle, emphasizing the accumulation of gold and silver bullions through trade surpluses and colonial resource exploitation. This stage was pivotal in expanding global trade networks and redefining economic and political landscapes. Industrial globalization 1800s to 1945 marked the third stage, driven by the Industrial Revolution. Empires like the British Empire and entities such as the British East India Company exemplified this era's capitalist practices, leveraging industrial production and multinational corporations to dominate global trade. Capitalism became the defining economic system, promoting innovation and global market integration. This stage saw a shift from colonial trade systems to industrialized economies, reshaping global commerce and societal structures. The fourth stage, modern globalization 1945 to 2000, emerged in the post-World War II era, characterized by the establishment of international organizations like the World Trade Organization (WTO), World Bank (WB), and International Monetary Fund (IMF). Technological advancements, including commercial aviation and the Internet, revolutionized communication and transportation, making the world more interconnected. Neoliberalism, with its focus on free markets, privatization, and liberalized trade policies, defined the economic landscape of this period, institutionalizing global economic governance. Finally, contemporary globalization 2000 to present represents the digital revolution and unprecedented interdependence. Social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, alongside e-commerce giants such as Amazon and Alibaba, have transformed communication and trade. Global supply chains now integrate nations into a seamless production and distribution network. Neoliberal globalization continues to dominate, emphasizing digital connectivity and automation while introducing challenges like digital inequality and cybersecurity. This stage highlights the transformative power of technology in shaping global interdependence. Each stage of globalization reflects humanity's evolving efforts to connect and integrate, driven by trade, technological advancements, and shifting economic principles. Understanding these stages provides valuable insights into the forces that have shaped the modern interconnected world. Understanding the stages of globalization highlights its historical and economic foundations. Next, we examine the key players who drive and shape globalization, from governments to corporations and individuals. The development of globalization is driven by various actors, each playing a critical role in fostering international interconnectedness through their distinct contributions. These actors influence the global economy, trade, and cultural exchange, shaping the world's economic and social landscape. 1. Governments. Negotiators. Governments play a pivotal role in globalization by establishing trade policies, negotiating international agreements, and creating an enabling environment for global economic integration. Through trade treaties and economic partnerships, governments reduce trade barriers and promote the free flow of goods and services. For example, agreements like the North American Free Trade Agreement (NAFTA) have facilitated economic integration across regions. Additionally, governments invest in infrastructure and regulatory frameworks that attract foreign investments and foster international cooperation. 2. International organizations. Platforms. Institutions such as the World Trade Organization (WTO) and International Monetary Fund (IMF) serve as platforms for cooperation, rulemaking, and economic stability. These organizations set guidelines for trade, monitor economic policies, and provide mechanisms for dispute resolution among member nations. The WTO, for instance, ensures the smooth functioning of global trade, while the IMF supports economic stability by providing financial assistance to countries in crisis. By fostering collaboration, these organizations strengthen economic ties and drive globalization. 3. Multinational corporations. Business integration. Multinational corporations (MNCs) are central to globalization as they expand their operations across borders, driving trade, investment, and technology transfer. Companies like Apple, Toyota, and Unilever operate in multiple countries, integrating economies through global supply chains. These corporations not only generate employment and economic growth but also facilitate cultural exchange and technological innovation. Their influence promotes interconnected markets and accelerates globalization by bridging economic gaps between nations.
4. Non-governmental organizations (NGOs). Interdependence. NGOs play a significant role in addressing global issues, advocating for social and environmental causes, and promoting sustainable development. Organizations like Greenpeace and Oxfam work across borders to tackle challenges such as climate change, poverty, and inequality. By fostering interdependence, NGOs encourage governments, businesses, and individuals to collaborate on global solutions, amplifying awareness and driving positive change in communities worldwide. 5. Financial institutions. Global financial supports, banks, investment firms, and other financial institutions facilitate the flow of capital across borders, provide financing, and support cross-border investments. Institutions like HSBC and the World Bank enable businesses to expand internationally by offering loans, credit facilities, and investment opportunities. Their activities contribute to the growth of international markets, enhance economic interdependence, and support the infrastructure necessary for globalization. By bridging financial gaps, these institutions underpin the global economic system.
6. Technological innovators. Global tools. These technological innovators are the companies and organizations in the digital space that play a pivotal role in enabling globalization. Through the development of communication networks, e-commerce platforms, and digital infrastructure, technological innovators help connect people and businesses across the globe. They include tech giants such as Google, Amazon, and Alibaba, which have revolutionized how information is exchanged and products are bought and sold. These innovators create the digital backbone of the global economy, making it easier for businesses to operate across borders, for individuals to access information, and for services to be delivered internationally. The rise of cloud computing, social media, and mobile technology has dramatically expanded the capacity for global interconnectedness, accelerating the pace of globalization. 7. Consumers. Consumers, through their demand for a diverse array of goods and services, are fundamental drivers of global trade. As people increasingly seek products from various cultures and regions, they influence the types of goods that are produced, where they are sourced, and how they are distributed. This demand helps create economic interdependence between countries as businesses strive to meet consumer needs by expanding their markets globally. The rise of the middle class in emerging economies, along with the accessibility of goods through online platforms, fosters greater interconnectedness, allowing economies to become more integrated. Consumers' preferences shape product availability and influence trends, thereby affecting trade flows and contributing to the overall integration of the global economy. Each of these actors, governments, international organizations, multinational corporations, NGOs, and financial institutions, plays a distinct yet interconnected role in the continuous development of globalization. Their collective efforts contribute to economic integration, cultural exchange, and the resolution of global challenges, shaping an increasingly interconnected world. Understanding their roles is crucial for appreciating the dynamics of globalization and its multifaceted impacts. The stage for analyzing its real-world implications. Let us now delve into the specific impacts of globalization on third-world countries, with a focus on economic, cultural, and environmental dimensions. 1. Economic inequality. Disparities. Globalization can exacerbate economic inequalities within countries, as wealth and the benefits of global trade are often concentrated in certain urban centers or among specific social groups. In the case of the Philippines, globalization has led to the growth of industries like business process outsourcing (BPO), technology, and retail in major urban areas such as Metro Manila and Cebu. However, These economic opportunities are not evenly distributed across the country. Rural areas and provinces often experience limited access to these benefits, leading to growing disparities in income and opportunities. For instance, while urban areas benefit from rising real estate prices, high-paying jobs, and access to global markets, rural areas struggle with underdevelopment and lack of basic infrastructure, widening the gap between the rich and the poor. 2. Dependency on global markets. Vulnerability to economic downturns. Developing countries that are heavily reliant on exports, such as the Philippines, are particularly vulnerable to fluctuations in the global market. The Philippines is a major exporter of electronics, agricultural products, and labor through overseas Filipino workers OFWs, which makes it susceptible to global economic downturns. For example, during the 2008 global financial crisis, demand for electronics and remittances from OFWs fell, severely affecting the Philippine economy. This dependency on external markets creates an instability in domestic economic conditions, as global recessions or shifts in consumer behavior can directly lead to job losses, reduced income, and slower growth, impacting the livelihood of the general population. Exploitation of labor. Labor practices. In the pursuit of lower production costs, multinational companies often outsource manufacturing to third-world countries like the Philippines, where labor is cheaper. This can lead to the exploitation of workers, with some companies neglecting workers' rights and providing poor working conditions. A well-known example in the Philippines is the garment industry, where workers, predominantly women, are often paid low wages and are subjected to long working hours, unsafe environments, and lack of job security. Labor unions and workers' rights organizations frequently report on unsafe factory conditions, where employees are exposed to hazardous materials and lack the proper benefits or health care, showing how labor exploitation can accompany the pursuit of economic growth through globalized production. 4. Cultural erosion. Cultural homogenization. Globalization can lead to the spread of Western cultural values, which may overshadow or erode local traditions and cultural diversity. In the Philippines, the influence of Western media, fashion, and lifestyle is evident, especially in urban areas where Western brands, movies, and TV shows dominate. The popularity of social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, driven by Western companies, has also accelerated the adoption of Western cultural norms, particularly among the youth. This cultural shift has led to a diminished emphasis on traditional Filipino values, such as family-based social structures and practices, leading to concerns over cultural homogenization, where local cultures may become less distinct or even forgotten in the face of dominant global influences. 5. Environmental degradation. Resource exploitation. The quest for rapid economic growth in developing countries, such as the Philippines, can result in environmental degradation, particularly through resource exploitation. Deforestation is one example of how development linked to globalization can have detrimental effects on the environment. In the Philippines, the demand for timber, land for agriculture, and mining operations has led to the destruction of vast swaths of forests, causing soil erosion, loss of biodiversity, and increased vulnerability to natural disasters like floods and landslides. Moreover, industrialization, fueled by global demand for goods, has contributed to increased pollution and waste, further harming local ecosystems and public health. This environmental degradation often occurs as a byproduct of striving to meet global market demands without adequate consideration for sustainable practices. 6. Political instability, social discontent. Economic disparities, cultural changes, and environmental degradation stemming from globalization can contribute to political instability and social unrest. In the Philippines, the widening gap between rich and poor, exacerbated by globalization, has led to frustration among marginalized groups. As urban areas thrive from foreign investments and business opportunities, rural and indigenous communities often feel left behind, resulting in protests and calls for government intervention. Social discontent is also fueled by perceptions of unequal access to resources and opportunities, leading to political instability. The impact of globalization can thus manifest in local protests, civil unrest, and even the rise of populist leaders who promise to address the grievances of those affected by economic and social inequities. These effects illustrate how globalization, while offering economic opportunities, also brings challenges that disproportionately affect developing countries like the Philippines. Addressing these issues requires a balanced approach that fosters economic growth while ensuring equitable distribution, labor rights, cultural preservation, environmental protection. Globalization is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon with profound implications for economies, societies, and cultures. By understanding its perspectives, stages, actors, and impacts, students can critically evaluate its role in shaping the modern world.